So, Madam Deputy Speaker, I have a very simple question for the Home Secretary. Well, I'll try anyway. If she is really serious about controlling immigration, will she vote later on today for the immigration cap, and will she vote to repeal the Human Rights Act for all immigration matters?
Home Secretary.
Madam Deputy Speaker, I must have missed a bit of the Shadow Home Secretary's response. The bit maybe at the beginning when he apologised to the House and to the country for his party's policies that quadrupled net migration in the space of just 4 years. He tells us his concerns about the level of migration. It was his party that is responsible for that huge increase in net migration. And I must have missed the bit as well where he confessed that from the point at which he became an immigration minister in 2020, when all these policies were introduced, to the point at which the Shadow Justice Secretary finished being Immigration Minister in 2023, net migration rose from 170,000 a year to 870,000 a year. But I must have missed that confession and that apology, because that is what the Shadow Home Secretary should have done. And frankly, until he admits his failure, until he apologises for the damage, the chaos that he and his party caused, frankly, no one is going to take seriously a single word he says. And he refers to visa changes that were made before the election. I would say we supported changes that were made by the Right Honourable Member for Braintree, but he had to reverse some of the changes that the Shadow Home Secretary made when he was an immigration minister. And as for caps, the White Paper provides for caps on low-skilled migration on the temporary shortage list. But his targets and caps are as meaningless as all the other ones that his party introduced when they were in government. Indeed, let me quote from the time of the Conservative government's reforms that caused a lot of these problems. I especially thank the Home Secretary for removing the annual limits on work visas and on international students. I lobbied for both. That was the current leader of the opposition. So the idea that this lot have anything to offer is like people who burgled your house and then turn up the next day and offer to sell you a dog. If they are serious about making the changes, if they are serious about tackling small boats, frankly, they should vote for our counter-terrorism powers to tackle the smuggler gangs that repeatedly he and the other right-wing parties have voted against. That's not serious. This government is.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Border security is fundamental, but between the July election and yesterday, 25,135 people illegally and dangerously crossed the English Channel, a 28% increase on the same period 12 months earlier. Does the Home Secretary now regret ignoring the National Crime Agency's advice that law enforcement alone is not enough and that a removals deterrent is needed?
I just perhaps point out to the Shadow Home Secretary that the figure he refers to, when the Conservatives were in government, we saw that many people arrive in the space of just over 100 days because they completely lost control of our borders and let criminal gangs take hold along the channel. And 84,000 people arrived on small boats, while the Rwanda policy that he somehow wants to reintroduce managed to send just 4 volunteers. We have increased returns by over 20% to 19,000. That is important, but I hope he will explain why he voted against counter-terrorism powers to go after smuggler gangs.
Chris Philp.
Well, she talks about the Rwanda scheme. Of course, it never even started. As she well knows, the first flight was due to take off after the election, but she cancelled it. And in relation to returns, she mentions returns a moment ago and how they've gone on. What she failed to mention, Mr. Speaker, was the vast majority of those, of course, did not enter the country by small boat. The number of small boat returns went down after this government came to office and represent only 4% of people crossing the English Channel, does she really think letting 96% of illegal immigrants stay here is going to deter anybody?
To say to the Shadow Home Secretary, the Rwanda scheme ran for 2 years. It was running for 2 years. Exactly. All they managed to do...
Please, just let's show a little bit more restraint. When you ask the question, at least wait for the answer. Home Secretary.
They ran for 2 years, spent £700 million of taxpayers' money to return just 4 people. And in the period in which he was in government, 128,000 people arrived on small boats. A tiny percentage of them ever returned, even though those numbers included 12,000 Albanians. This government is having to sort this chaos out, but his party, again, fails to support counter-terrorism powers against smuggler and trafficking gangs, siding with the criminal smuggler gangs instead of the people of Britain. Thank you.